Shalom, shalom. Praise to the Most High. I have my Shemashaya, Bahawak. I am Brother Reed, and we are having a Shabbat Shalom session today. And today we are talking about the Ten Commandments. We're going to do a breakdown on Ten Commandments, starting with the First Commandment all the way to the 10th Commandment. And just like we did with the several churches. So we're going to do it similar to that, that those can follow along. So we ask if you follow along, and if you have any comments or anything that you want to say or add to it, we receive it as long as it's in the Word, and as long as it's it's precepting and everything else. We just want to get everybody's input and understanding on this, because we don't think that we know everything. Not at all. We don't come like that. We come in love, we come in peace, and we come in our greeting of shalom to all our brothers and sisters here, there, and everywhere that's listening, and that who this is going out to. So we just want to thank you all for listening in as well. And because without you, there wouldn't be no us, and us without you. So we just thank you for that, for listening in. And with that, we're going to start out with our sister Ahava, and what she has for the first.
Shabbat Shalom. This week I really wanted to just have the Most High help me get my bearings on the Ten Commandments and really look at some preliminary questions. For me, it was who's speaking. I mean, we know, I'm sure that Brother Darby will get into some of the historical elements of the Ten Commandments and Moses being given those commandments, but I wanted to really get into the essence of the Most High's delivery of those. And so the question that I approach a study with is who's speaking. It led me to really do some digging into who the Most High is, who is the Most High God. It's important to understand who's speaking, because if we look at the elements of translation, we know that things have been added to and things have been subtracted from, and there's a lot of confusion in the translation. So I want to get into the words as they've been translated, but in my reading of the passage, I want to stick with the words that they use, and I'll kind of address some of the translation names, the other names that have been used. So I actually went back to Exodus 21 and 3, even though we're beginning with verse 3, just to look at the context of, again, my prevailing question was who's speaking. So, Brother Yada, if you can read for me Exodus 20 verses 1, 2, and 3, please.
And Ahiah spoke these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God Ahiah, who have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other God Ahiah before me.
Thank you. So, looking at 20 verse 1, we know that according to Strong's, the word God that's used in all three of those verses is H430, which is Elohim. Now, the interesting thing about Elohim, when you look up in the Strong's, is Elohim is the plural of number 433, H433. But the definition is gods in the ordinary sense, but specifically used in the plural, thus, especially with the article, of the supreme God, occasionally applied by way of deference to magistrates and sometimes as a superlative. So my first thing was, there's nothing ordinary about the Most High. So that really struck me as interesting. And when you look at the singular word from which that comes, it's H433. And it is Eloha or Eloah. It's a rare form that's used, and it is a deity or the deity, God. Secondary word that's referred to in this definition is H410, which is El. It's a shortened form of H352. The word El means strength, an adjective, mighty, especially the Almighty, but used also of any deity. Then the word from which H410 is shortened is H352, Ayil. It's from the same root word as H193, and this word means properly strength, hence anything strong, specifically a chief politically, also a ram from his strength, a pilaster as a strong support, an oak or other tree in terms of a mighty man, lintel, oak, post, ram, or tree. So all of these things are describing things that are strong, that are supportive, but also that are very generic. And again, there's nothing generic or common about the Most High. So getting to the origin of the words from which all of these words come, according to Strong's and going back to the original Hebrew, that word is H193, ul. It's an unused root word meaning to twist. Interesting. As in to take something out of its original form. That is, by implication, be strong. The body as being rolled together, also powerful, mighty, or strength. So the strength and power of these words is coming from their twisting. There's really no power in all of these different words because those are not the Most High's names. What I found as I researched in is that the generic term of Elohim that they use by the translators is used as a placeholder in the translation of the Bible, because we know that there's nothing generic or nothing common about the Most High. They used it 2,601 times in the Old Testament. So when we look at what they're saying in these particular verses, and God, this is generic, spake all of these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Here you have a description of who's speaking, God. And then you have, I am the Lord thy God, speaking as an introduction of that person who is speaking. And then finally in the third verse saying that thou shalt have no other gods before me. Why would the Most High refer to himself in the same term that he's saying you should have no other thing like? He's letting you know that there's a difference between himself and those gods, those generic gods, those things that have been twisted before him, that he is greater than those.
Right.
Now, who is speaking? We have to go back to where we originally received the name of the Most High, which is in Exodus 20. Which is in Exodus 3. He's giving us a reminder of who he is in Exodus 22. That's why he says, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So, bam, there's a precept right there, because he's telling you exactly. There is no other God. There is no Elohim who has brought the Israelites out of Egypt. There's only one. If you could read for me, please, Brother Yada, Exodus chapter 3, beginning at verse 2 down to 17, please. Exodus chapter 3, verse 2.
Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burnt with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt.
Okay, hold on right there. When Moses sees the first time he's seeing a manifestation of the Most High, he says that this is a great sight. He didn't say it was ordinary. He didn't say it was generic. There was something about this manifestation of the Most High that caught his eye, and enough for him to say that it was great. So we know right away that Elohim, which is describing a generic God, is not going to be the correct description of who is speaking to us when giving us the Ten Commandments. Go ahead.
And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, a higher called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses. And he said, here I am. And
Hold on, go back. I want you to read that again. And he said what?
he said, here I am.
He didn't say here I am. He says, here am I.
Oh, right. You're right. I'm sorry.
That's important because remember, I am is the name of the Most High. So when he's answering, first of all, he has not yet been given the verbalization of that name.
Right.
So he's answering. And most often when you see people, when the Most High is calling them in the Old Testament, typically they answer, here am I, as opposed to here I am. The only time you see I am used is in specific instances where the Most High is giving clues to what his name is. Go ahead.
Okay. And he said, draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon Ahiah. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land into a good land, and a large, into a land flowing with milk and honey, and to the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel have come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee to Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto Ahiah, who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children out of Israel? Bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt. And he said, certainly, I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve Ahiah upon this mountain. And Moses said unto Ahiah, behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, the God of your fathers hath sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, what is his name? What shall I say unto them? And Ahiah said unto Moses, I am that I am.
He said what? What he said his name is?
I am that I am.
Okay.
And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am have sent me to you.
Who have sent you?
I am have sent me to you.
The generic God have sent you?
I am have sent me to you. And Ahiah said, moreover, unto Moses, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, the Lord, Ahiah of your fathers, the Ahiah of Abraham, the Ahiah of Isaac, and the Ahiah of Jacob, have sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations.
Okay, you can stop right there. So this is the precept for Exodus 20, where we're getting the commandments from, so that when the Most High introduces himself and says, I am, he's reminding you. That's the first clue. And then when he's saying, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, he's taking you right back to the place where he introduced his name for the first time to Moses and told the children of Israel that that is how he would be called. So what is I am? H1961, Haya, a primitive root which can be compared to H1933, which means to exist. That is, be or become, come to pass, always emphatic and not a mere copula or auxiliary. So it's always an attention. It's a beacon, altogether, be. come, accomplished, committed, like, break, cause, come, to pass, continue, do, think, fall, follow, happen. It's an action. It's always in motion. The Most High identified himself by name in Exodus 3:14 as Haya, not by a generic term of God, but rather Ahaya, Ashar Ahaya is who he said his name is. The Most High also says in Exodus 3:15, this is my name forever. This is my memorial unto all generations. So clearly the same God, Ahaya, who introduces himself in Exodus 3:14 is speaking in Exodus chapter 20. So on to the first commandment. Exodus 20:3. Can you read that one, please, Brother Yada?
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Okay, so what does it say? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. But what does it really say? The first three words are thou shalt have. Who is this referring to? Us, right? That's what I thought until I looked it up in the Strong Concordance. See, the translator spent so much time trying to put all these generic uses of the word God to confuse us about who the Most High is that they forgot to change the hidden messages and clues that Ahaya left to remind us. So if you look up the word thou shalt have, guess what word it is? H1961. Haya. So really what that passage reads, that commandment is Ahaya. No other gods before me. Same exact word. When I read this, I was like, oh my goodness. All praise to the Most High, because I had never seen that before. And I kept searching and looking at the different names and trying to see what was it. And I just felt like I was going into a cycle of confusion. And I was trying to go back to the root. And I even tried to do some searching to find the original Hebrew, because I hear a lot of people teaching about, you know, the word God comes from power, and I couldn't find that in the word. So I tried searching the Dead Sea Scrolls. I tried searching original Paleo Hebrew, and the more I searched, the more and more I was just like, I was getting frustrated. And then it was all of a sudden, I just looked down and the Most High just showed me right here that it's the same, that he's showing, that that's what he's saying, that there's no gods before him. Ahaya, he's reminding you of his name. So this commandment is not about us. It's about the Most High. It's about who he is. It's about understanding and receiving and remembering who he already introduced himself as, what promises he made when he made that introduction that he fulfilled subsequently, and what he told us to do, to remember that this is his name forever and that this is his memorial for all generations, not just for Moses, but for all generations. So that includes us. So this is what he's telling us. He's turning us back to that in that commandment and telling us not to have anything else before him. So those things that hinder us are other. That's H312, which actually means, it comes from the word H309. It means properly hinder, generally next, other, following, next, strange. The root word for other, which is H309, is akar. It's a primitive root which means to loiter. That is, be behind, by implication to procrastinate, continue, defer, delay, hinder, be late, slack, stay, there, tarry longer. And again, in this same passage, we see the generic root, the generic word for gods, again, Elohim. So in this case, in Exodus 20:3, the use of the generic word for gods is appropriate, because the Most High is warning us not to have strange, generic gods who will cause us to loiter, be behind, procrastinate, delay, that will hinder us, cause us to be late, and miss the Most High.
Wow.
The word before me is H5921. Al. It talks about position. It's properly the same as 5920, used as a preposition in the singular or plural, often with the prefix or as a conjugation with the particle, above, over, upon, or against, yet always in this last relation with the downward aspect. in a great variety of applications. Above, accordingly, after, against, among, before me speaks of the Most High's position. The comparative word al comes from H5927, and that word means properly the top, specifically the highest, that is God, above, high, most high. So again, always pointing you back to who he is. The Most High is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. We have to remember that the Most High created man in his image, but we must also remember that the Most High is the original and we are the copies. So we are never to exalt ourselves or anything else above the Most High. Anything can be a God. Anyone can be a God. Generic, something that causes us to be hindered, that causes us to miss the Most High. Isaiah 14:12-14 shows us how Lucifer tried to place himself above the Most High. And this is not a path we want to follow. Isaiah 14:12 says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." And then Isaiah 14:15-19 shows us what happens when we try to exalt ourselves above the Most High. 14:15 says, "Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet." So that is what will happen to the gods. Those generic things that cause us to stumble, that we try to exalt above the Most High, they will be brought down to the pit and will be trodden under our feet. We don't want that to be us. We don't want that to be the people in our lives. We don't want that to be anything that we so-called care about, because there should be nothing that we care about above the Most High. He is in the top position. He is the Most High God.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Great. Great. That's good. Right. Some good information out there. So going back to here, we're going to start from the beginning. Because I know some people may be like, we have to understand, and we have to be very, very patient with our brothers that coming into the truth and sisters, because some of them didn't come from a church background at all. I'm not saying that if you came from a church background, you were doing good. We know how that was too. But what I'm saying is that some of them don't even know the story, other than movies that they may have seen on TV and so forth. So just give you a small, brief description of who Moses even is. I'm going to start with this, that Moses was chosen by the Most High, okay, to do a specific job, and that's to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, which was bondage. So we have to understand that, and also to bring the commandments to them so that they would have structure, they would have order, they would have stability, and they would have laws, principles, things that could stand up, that would measure up to something as far as character is concerned, to try to get them to be molded into the image of who the Most High was. We know we got his image because we see his image in the 7th chapter of Daniel about his image, but we know also we need to be in his image as far as his spirit. So this was why the commandments were a schoolmaster for us to lead us into something greater, and we'll get to that as well, But at the same time, we have to understand that we have to use these principles to walk into these principles, because we just can't say the commandments, we have to actually do them. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I want to give you an idea of who Moses is. So basically, he was sent to the children of Israel. There was an incident where he killed the taskmaster who was trying to uh, just destroy our people, you know. And he had to get out of there, so he left and he went into Midian, and there he met a wife, and he was able to get married, and he stayed there for a while until the Most High dealt with him and was able to talk to him, like we read earlier about him being in the wilderness and on the mountain and seeing the flame of fire. And I'm just trying to give you a picture, a mental picture of what he had to go through to be prepared, because it's one thing to do something, but if you have a task like this, you have to be prepared for it. So the Most High was preparing him to do these things. So now we're at the point where he's taking the children of Israel out of Egypt. And we'll go into detail about that one day and do that in a lesson like that as well, to show about the different things that we did that's similar from the Egyptian captivity versus the modern day Egyptian captivity here in the Americas. But for the most part, we are now at Exodus 20 and 1 through 17. And we're going to have Brother Yaba read that to everybody down from 1 through 17. Just scroll down. So I'm going to read all 10 commandments. We're on the first one, but I just want to read all of them. Just get an idea.
And the highest spoke all these words, saying, I am the higher, the most high, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other powers, gods, before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, ensuing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there real quick. I just want to add that to that. He tell you in John that 14 and 15 that if you love him, you'll keep his commandments. So you notice that he said something about hate, right? That means that you don't want to keep the commandments. Now go ahead.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Just wanted to do an overall read of it so we can get an idea of the 10 Commandments. And I just want to say something, it's kind of interesting, but I know that the Most High, he deal with numbers. And when you look at the 613 laws, if you add that up, you got 6, 1, and 3, which is 10, the 10 Commandments. So you have a breakdown from the 613 that gives you the actual 10 Commandments. And when you want to even go to a greater understanding of it, then we also have to look at the 2 greatest commandments that came from Mashiach, Christ, who you call Christ. Most people call Christ that don't know. So once in a while you hear me say Christ, and all these different things. It's only because people don't know what we're talking about. When we start saying Mashiach and people just not coming to the truth, they don't know what that is. They got to get a dictionary. They got to ask what it is, all these different things. I don't want to be sitting up here trying to do some Paleo Hebrew or anything, trying to sound all whatever. I'm just, at the same time, I want people to get it. That's what's more important than anything, that they get it. Okay? So you're going to hear me say Christ and all these different things from time to time because they don't know nothing else until they're able to understand those things. All right. So when you take that, anyway, when you go back to the lesson and you see the two greatest commandments that came from Christ, which is, which these commandments were elevated, you know. So when you begin to look at that, that they were elevated into love. So we look at Matthew 22, 36 through 40, we begin to understand that now we're dealing with a Melchizedek elevation. We went from the Levitical priesthood understanding to a Melchizedek elevation, because those laws are still in effect for those that don't understand. Those laws ain't went nowhere. They still there. Right. The only difference is we don't, you know, as Israel, as a nation of Israel, we don't bring people to our gatherings, and if they do something and stone them and all these different things, because there's grace right now. Okay, so he's not requiring that for us. The Mashiach came and he gave grace, and that's a blessing. And he's our not just our high priest, but he's also the sacrifice himself. So this is what we know, you know, and we're gonna do a lesson on this because we know it's a lot of people out there that's OT only, and we don't really get off into all that, but we're gonna definitely address that because he's all through the Bible. So if you throw away the Mashiach, you got to throw away the Torah, you got to throw away everything because he's in there. And there's nothing you can say about it. He's in there. Just to give you a few off the top of my head, Solomon asked a question. He lets you know. He said, you know, what is the Most High's name and what is the Son's name? And we can just keep on going on and on and on about even the reprobates like Nebuchadnezzar, who saw the fourth one in the fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The slave names of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he said one that looks like the son of God. You know. So here it is. Even they can recognize those things, and our people can't. Okay, we gotta wake up. We gotta wake up. Okay, so we know this. So this is not nothing that we, we on the fence with or nothing like that. No. We know the Mashiach is in there everywhere, and they say it's 353 or whatever. I found more than that. So I can't wait till we go over. He's all through the Old Testament, especially in the Torah. So I cannot wait to bring it out, and we're going to bring it out. So we know this. So with that being said, like I said, these we know that the commandments they're not burdensome. There's something that can be done. And then he talks about how these commandments are going to be. He never did away with them at all. He even talked about how they're going to be kept later. That's why he said little things. And I didn't even think I was going to say this. I would have had the scripture written down. Sorry about that, y'all. But I didn't think I was going to say it until the Holy Spirit just led me to say this. But even when he said that as far as being the least of the commandments, you'll be least in the kingdom of heaven. So he's letting you know that the commandments are going to be in the kingdom of heaven. There's no rocket science for that. There's no twist in that scripture. There's no nothing but precepts. That's all you're going to find for that. And there's plenty of them. Just off the top of my head, in Micah, there's precepts about that. I think the 4th chapter, the 2nd verse tell you that they're going to come to Jerusalem and they're going to do the laws. So you can say it all you want to, all the way through Revelation. It tells you that you got to keep the testimony of the Mashiach and the laws, the testimony of Christ and the laws. So this is what we know. So with that being said, we also understand that Hebrews 13:1 says, let brotherly love continue. So we know that when the Mashiach came, this is what he dealt with. He was trying to tell you about the laws and how they were elevated and how they were that we have to keep them in love. So when they asked the question in Matthew 22:36-40, and I'm reading here from the King James Version, it says, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Yahshua said unto him, thou shalt love Ahijah thy power with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the laws and the prophets. So when Christians see this, they say, oh, see, this is it. He brought this and this is it. No, he elevated these things. Because when you start getting into different scriptures, that started talking about if you even think about killing your brother, you just committed murder. And if you think about having sex with his wife, you just committed adultery. And if you think about stealing that Snicker instead of paying $1.25 for it, you just stole. I mean, the laws are different. And the reason why it's like that, because we have to understand that the Most High moves us in degrees. Okay? And he came back, he told us a long time ago that he would have us keep the laws in our heart. So this is the practice of it. See, we have to do the application of the laws, y'all. Don't let nobody tell you nothing different, especially those churches that's coming into the truth now. They want to use Deuteronomy 28 to prove that they're Israelites, but don't want to use Deuteronomy 28 to say, hey, wait a minute, I broke the law in order to get that right to call myself an Israelite. So you have to use that for both ways, because the Mashiach had already came. So you can't say that it was something else. It was the fact that we broke the laws. And we got away from the testimony of the Mashiach. And I'm going to get into that. But what I need to say is this, that when you do those things, and you break these laws, even in the spirit realm, on heaven as it is in earth. So when you break these laws, you broke them into the spirit realm and you broke them here on earth. Okay? That's why it's so important for us to understand who the Mashiach is and how we need him. Because spiritually, he can sacrifice. He's made the sacrifice already for us to ask for the perpetuation of our sins. So we have to understand that it's very important to really have a Mashiach, because he plays a key important part. Because otherwise, this is just for the OT onlys. Where's your lambs at? Where's your Levite priest that's going to light the fire? You know, are you going to put a rope around them? Because we know that everybody's filthy right now. So are you going to put a rope around them and see if he makes it out? So I'm asking rhetorical questions that I know you can't answer. So I'm saying this because I love you, brothers and sisters. I'm not saying this to try to beat you down and all these different things. I'm not. If you notice, I'm not naming one person, even though I know a lot of them. You know, I'm saying these things because I love my people, Israel, and you got to come out of that, and you got to understand why brotherly love continue is so important. Hebrews 13:1, because we have to understand that we have to bring people back in the order of the Melchizedek order, and this is a spiritual thing. We can see that in Abraham's tithing, giving it before Levi was even born. So we understand. Those that's following along with me, they know what I'm talking about. Who don't understand this Bible, they know that I'm studying the presence of how the Most High worked in the spirit realm. Okay, so this is what our brother, you know, and the Son did for us, the Mashiach. He came and he elevated us, because now it's time to keep those words in our hearts, and we have to use the application of the law. And that's why the law is our schoolmaster, because we have to use it in the application of our walk. That means every time we walk like the Most High. We walk like the Mashiach, brother, because the Mashiach was our example. So we walking like him as he walking like his Father. So this is what we have to do, and it has to be every part of every part. So when the Mashiach came, you know, he brought us love, you know, because the 12 tribes were beefing. Let's get that understood. The 10 northern tribes had been scattered, okay, and were basically out of the land at the time of the Mashiach. So, you know, when you start in Judah, so Judah and Ephraim had a wedge between them, you know. So the Mashiach told Judah, you know, go and get the lost sheep of Israel. He told him that, you know. So this is about, because it was time to have love again, guys. It's time to have love again. We have to have love with one another, because we've been separated and we've built these wedges. And you know, it's really funny, because I look at the brothers and I say, wow, you know, a lot of them, they don't like Ephraim, or who we claim to be Ephraim, those that understand the charts. And we understand the charts as being, we don't believe that the charts are 100% complete, but we do believe in the charts. Okay, I'm going to tell you that up front. And the reason why is because we're actually doing the work in those places, in Central America, different places. So we get a chance, we have a different view than people who have not done the work, but just sitting at home and just texting back and forth with different brothers that are watching videos, and they just begin to take on the parakeet language of the person that they're listening to without going to investigate themselves. You know, and I'm not trying to be funny toward anybody, but we notice this in the house of Israel. We know that this goes on. And I have to say these things because you don't realize that you are in prophecy. And what I mean by that is that the word tells you that Judah was going to vex Ephraim, and that they were going to be against one another. Why is Judah mad at Ephraim? Because Ephraim went along and kept on amalgamating with different people and different nations, even after the captivities. That's why Judah is mad at Ephraim. So Ephraim, don't be upset when they get mad at you. Just understand what they're at and they're thinking. And Judah, who getting mad at your brother because you did it too. You followed in the same footsteps, and some of you amalgamated with different nations. So we need to stop that and come together as one stick. That's what I got to say about that. Now, staying on point of the lesson, though, it's also important to say that all 12 tribes were scattered, and we know this. So I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, no, they were not scattered. Only Judah was scattered." No, that's not scripture. There's plenty of scriptures to back that up, and I cannot wait to do a lesson on that too. And we will. And the stuff that we said we're doing a lesson on, we're going to bring it out. Trust me. So we're going to make sure we prove that to let people know. And even some of Judah, Benjamin had already been going out, and some of Levi had did it as well. And we don't want to even go into Solomon's seed because we know his seed is all over the place. You got Ethiopia, you got the Levites that were there in the early history, during the time of Makeda, and all the way through Candace, who was ruling Ethiopia. So some of those people over there are our people, and that's just facts. Even DNA, as much as you believe or want to bear witness to it or whatever it may be, or how much you want to invest into it, even that proves that there's two different people over there in Ethiopia, I can say for sure. And I did some more studying on the pie charts for that, and you can go into that yourself. But for the most part, there is evidence, physical evidence, that there's different people in those Semitic places. And those people add up to the same DNA as the people who are here in the Americas. So, that's for those that don't know that. Okay, now you have to do your independent studying on that, but for the most part, I want to bring that out as well. These are important because it's important to understand that the 12 tribes were scattered, and some of us just voluntarily went other places. So the 12 tribes is everywhere. That's why we said that the charts are incomplete. No disrespect to the brothers who produced that and brought things out. Matter of fact, we salute you for bringing out the truth in a lot of ways and bringing brothers into the truth and doing everything you did, even directly and indirectly, because, most people that woke up, they woke up through the fact that you all went out and did what you did, and put yourselves on the line. So we don't see you, we personally don't see you as any threat or as anything that was disrespectful toward the movement at all. And we salute you for that, and that's all of y'all, not no separate ones. I'm not doing it. I'm 13 and 1 Hebrews. Okay, let brotherly love continue. And with that being said, I want to continue on with this. Luke 21, the Mashiach tells our people to run to the hills, and we did that, right? Mm-hmm. So we go across the Sahara, and we settle, and we know the Romans can't come in there because the heat would destroy them in that particular region. So somewhere along the line, we got lost spiritually as we begin to stay in those places, and years and centuries and stuff go by, and we got lost spiritually and didn't keep the testimony of the Mashiach anymore or the laws. And then we begin to worship the stone. Okay, first Islam, then wood. That's known in Deuteronomy 28 when we talk about wood and stone. So I want to address that a little bit because some people say, see, some OT onlys, they'll see that and say, see, it's Christianity, and y'all brothers, y'all believe in the Mashiach, Well, here's what's up with that. Let me tell you about the wood real quick and stone so I can explain that to the people that just don't understand what that means. So we're going to break that down for you. Okay, the wood came through, through Christianity, through the European Christianity, which was post-Constantine type stuff. Right. And then we were given the Bible. We know that, by the Europeans, aka Edom, that the ones that actually put us in slavery. We know that that's the ones. I do not believe personally that every single so-called European in the world is Edom. I want to make sure I say that. I believe that there's several type of so-called Europeans in the world. Some Japhethites, some Edom, and so forth. But I do not believe that, just like we know that all so-called black people ain't Hamitic. So, it's the same principle. You can flip it and however you want, but, we know that, so you can't convince us that, no matter what side of the track you're on. And we'll do something about that too, because we already know that you guys, a lot of people are arguing about that. They're arguing about, this person Edom and this person is the Arabs, and you don't realize that they're both correct. There's principles on both of them. And anytime you see principles, let's talk about that for one quick second too. Anytime you see prefixes that fit two different doctrines, that means both of them, the doctrines are correct. That is possible in the Bible, So it doesn't mean that only one can be correct. Where are y'all getting that from? The spirit realm is totally different from the physical realm. Okay? So you need to understand that. That's why in Obadiah it talks about how the things of Esau sought out. Because we know that he's hidden himself in all these different nations. It's
Right.
Esau talking about Shalom right now. Don't think that just because a person is white skinned that they have to be Esau. Or that your brother walking through and say Shalom, Shalom, Khan, brother, I mean, it doesn't mean anything. His father could be from Esau, or he could be from Japan. We don't know that. That's why the Most High tell you, through the Mashiach, he tells you, let the wheat grow along with the tares. We don't know that. Unless you got the spirit without measure, you don't know that. And that's what I be trying to explain to people. Don't tell me that. You can try to prove that all you want to. I'm not going to believe it, no matter what you say. We have sound doctrine, and we know better than that. So push that to somebody that don't have sound doctrine. But we have sound doctrine, and we know for a fact that every single so-called white man in the world is not Edom, just like every single Arab in the whole world is not Edom. We know that. So you all can fight about that as long as you like, but we know that already. And so here's the proof about the wood and stone, because that relates to the first commandment. So let's go back to that. Wood and stone is not talking about the new covenant. I can prove that. Okay. So here's a wood and stone breakdown that the Holy Spirit gave me for you out. Wasn't the 10 Commandments written on stone?
Yeah.
I thought wood and stone. All right. Was not Moses' staff made of wood? Wow. Was not the Ark of the Covenant made of wood and overlaid in gold? Was not Noah's Ark that saved 8 people made of wood? Mm-hmm. So you reaching when you start saying the wood and stone. And see, brother, that's Christianity, and it is Christianity. We can prove that, but it's not in the sense of the Mashiach, how we believe as Messianic Israelites. So we're not going to let you push that on us and make us believe anything different. You can forget it, because like I said, he's in the volume of the book. We're talking about the Mashiach now. He's in the volume of the book. So with that being said, we also know that Joshua had made another covenant. Okay. That he made another covenant with Israel. And let's just read a little bit about what happened right there. You gotta bear with me because my glasses and it's a small writing. So Joshua, the 24th chapter, the 19th verse, starting with the 19th verse. And Joshua said unto the people, ye cannot serve Hiah, for he is an holy power. He is a jealous power. He will not forgive your transgressions nor your sins. If you forsake Ahiah and serve strange powers, then he will turn and do you hurt and consume you. After that he hath done you good. And the people said unto Joshua, nay, but we will serve Ahiah. And Joshua said unto the people, ye are witness against yourselves, that ye have chosen you, Ahiah, to serve him, and they said, we are witnesses. Now therefore put away, said he, the strange powers which are among you, and incline your heart unto the power Ahiah of Israel. And the people said unto Joshua, the power of Ahiah we will serve, and his voice will we obey. Joshua made a covenant with the people that day and set them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law and took a great stone and set it up under an oak that was by the sanctuary of Ahiah. So what did he just do? His wooden stone. He took a stone and set it upon oak. So all y'all like penny pinching with the wood and stone stuff, stop it, stop it, stop it. We're gonna get into what it is, but stop that, because we know that he used stones and wood all the time. So stop it. And this verse is killing you, cutting you up right now, because that's exactly what he does. And I can go all through the Bible and show this. And Joshua said unto all people, behold, this stone shall be a witness unto us, for it hath heard all the words of the higher which he spake unto us. It shall be therefore a witness unto you, lest ye deny your power. So Joshua let the people depart, every man unto his inheritance. And it came to pass after these things that Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Ahiah, died, being 110 years old. Okay, so as you can see, you know, he uses wood and stone all the time. Okay, now okay, so what's simply saying here is that it's talking about the Christianity, it's talking about the wooden crosses and all those different things, and it's also talking about the stone, which is the black stone, known as the Al-Hajjua sword, which is in Mecca. And these are the things that it's speaking about. It's also talking about crosses and stuff like that, you know, because a lot of us embrace those crosses, we wear them, and all these things, all these pagan things, and we hold on to these things when that's not really what it's about. And, you know, so we have to be careful, because the wood and stone worship, it goes a little deeper into that, and it goes all the way back to Babylon. We know this. So it also deals with the Christmas tree. So you want to know what you want to deal with, some wood and stone, deal with that Christmas tree. Because we know in Jeremiah 10 it talks about the Christmas tree. So this is the doctrine that it's talking about when it's talking about wood and stone. It's not speaking about the New Testament, just to let you know that. Okay? And when you're dealing with the Al-Hajjua sport, I remember a time when this brother named Bishop used to come into the room. And Bishop, boy, he would light the room up. This brother was so knowledgeable, an older gentleman. And we were young back then. It was 1991, 92. And he would, I remember when he first walked in, he said, get that biker off the wall. And we all looked like, what is he talking about? And he talking about Caesar Borgia. He pointed over at Caesar Borgia. And I had never heard nobody talk like that with authority about, you know, the picture and stuff. I was young at the time, and I was like, whoa, you know, because the brother was speaking some truth, but he was just letting you know, get that biker off the wall, because he knew that it wasn't right, you know. And he said, cover up that cross. You know, so I mean, that's what it's about. It's about that. It's not so much, like I said, the facts of what happened to the Mashiach. It's the things that we take and we just magnify it to the highest degree, you know. And that's what it's really about. That's what it's talking about when it says that, and that's in direct collision with the first commandment when it's talking about thou shalt not have any other powers before me. You know, don't have nothing else before him. Go ahead, you got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to that.
Go ahead.
As far as the crosses and stuff, when you look at you look at people how they feel about them, and how they in a sense they worship the cross and they worship the image of Christ on the cross. Mm-hmm. It's almost like if one of my friends that passed away this past week. So, and there were you know, living in this day and age of technology and everything, all the media is everywhere, and you can do so much thing on everybody on their phones. It was an instance where someone had took a picture of him while he was deceased, and while you was doing your lesson, I thought about how you were talking about the image of Christ on the cross. It's almost the same thing. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful for you to take a picture of somebody and, like, dead, and then post it on the internet and just have it everywhere, go viral. Everybody comment, you know, stuff like that. Especially when it's fresh and it's new, and their parents or their loved ones haven't even seen them yet. It's almost the same thing with Christ. We carry these crosses and stuff. It's almost like we celebrating the death instead of celebrating his life.
Right. And another thing is the Mashiach, you know, he said, let the dead bury the dead, you know, and that's talking about the unconscious. Bury somebody who can not be conscious no more at this point, you know, in the physical world. So, yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. Anything else from you?
I had found that one scripture that you referenced from the least of the commandments is in Matthew 5. It's actually in 19, but just for context, 18 through 20.
Okay.
For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
Okay.
For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Okay. So, we know that these laws are doable. There's places in the scripture that tells you that these people are upright. In many instances, that people went, and even the Mashiach, when he would heal people, he would say, go and sin no more. So it's possible to do it. It's possible to do it. It's not impossible. If it was impossible, then how could the Mashiach be a sacrifice for us if it was something that was supernaturally done in such a way where it wasn't done physically for us to even follow in his footsteps? That don't even make sense. So we have to look at common sense, and that common sense don't even tell you that. So we know even in the Old Testament it was possible that people were looked to as being righteous and upright, and so forth, and we can definitely follow in those footsteps.
Well, it wasn't just possible, it was expected.
Yeah.
One of the things I was actually studying earlier this week was I had to read something about counseling, and it was talking about enabling, and it was talking about something called codependency. And so when you enable someone, you make it possible. It's usually in terms of somebody who's addicted, like somebody who's an alcoholic or somebody who's a drug addict. So people who are enablers are those who may give them money to buy drugs, or those who may purchase them for them or make them feel like that it's okay. So I think a lot of times we enable people to break the law, specifically in the Christian church, because they tell you that the laws are done away with. So when you give somebody a context to do something that's wrong, to do something that goes against the law of the Most High, that's what this scripture that we just read is saying, that you're just as wrong, because you're teaching that person to break the commandments.
Right.
You're giving them an open door. You're literally walking into the door, walking into the cliff and pushing them over.
That's a very good point. And with that being said, I have to raise a question. Do y'all think that's talking about something intentionally that's doing it, or someone that don't really know that they're doing it?
Well, I think it would have to be someone who's intentionally doing it, because specifically those who are sleeping, if they've been taught that something is okay, they're doing what they've been taught in their sleeping condition. If they don't know who we are, because they believe that they're a Gentile and the laws don't apply to them. And so they're under the teaching of, okay, well, I'm covered under grace and not the law, because the law wasn't given to them. And they really believe that. But there are those who we know are covered under the law and are supposed to be, but because they haven't been taught that and because they haven't been awakened to that, I don't think that would necessarily apply to them for teaching that if they don't know.
So you
but
said
if they intentionally know,
that they're deliberately breaking the law.
If they know that the law was given to them and they're deliberately breaking the law and teaching other people. Like if someone is a pastor in a church who has been awakened, and they know that the law is given unto their people, but yet they're still teaching their people that the law is done away with, even though they know that the word says that the law has not been done away with. Those people are doing what this scripture says. They are the least in the kingdom, because they're not only breaking the law themselves, they're breaking the law by teaching people to break the law.
So my question, are they held accountable?
Yes, the word says yes.
Okay, right. And what I'm saying, what about in a situation where you have a Gentile who knows the truth, and because they know that they're Gentile, they're still telling an Israelite that they don't have to keep the law? That's happening. So I'm just bringing up real stuff. What do y'all think about that?
Well, I think
Because
it's the same situation.
they're not even supposed to be teaching.
I was going to say, first of all, why are they accepting the teaching? If the person is awakened to the fact that they're Israel, why are they receiving the teaching from a Gentile who's telling them something that's opposite of what the Most High's word says?
100% true. I get it 100%, but you have people that wake up through the Gentiles.
Understood.
If they're woken up themselves through the Israelites.
Understood.
So, I mean, because you have to think, a lot of these videos, you know, for instance, you know, when they see the Gentiles talking, they're like, whoa, you know, this ain't just coming from our people, you know, because we look at each other like we are destroyed, so we can't get no knowledge from each other, and that's how we kind of look at each other until we wake up, and then we realize the greatness of each individual that we're dealing with, even the people that's so far destroyed, they got something that they can teach and bring to the table, which is another thing, you know, we got to start building, y'all, you know. That's why I say our motto is Hebrews 13:1. Let brotherly love continue. Because we realize that we may have the foundation brick, but someone else has the other brick to build on top of the foundation. So we need each other, y'all. We need each other. All of us need one another. You know, and even if we don't agree on every single thing, it doesn't mean that we're not in the truth. You know, I want people to stop saying that. Stop saying, well, he ain't in the truth just because he don't believe just like you. No. Time and the Mashiach and prophecy is going to show what's true and what's false. In time, things are going to come to naught. We're going to know. We're going to know. I'm talking about why the tribulation is on. We're going to know what's real and what's not. As we see people fall and fail, you know, and all praises, you know, I'm not saying that arrogantly because I'm hoping we don't. But I'm just saying, you know, if we see that happen, we're going to know, you know, what's real and what's not real and what's, you know, what doctrines are real. But I believe that the doctrines that have precepts are real, you know. And you deal with a lot of different people who, I want to say this real quick because this wasn't in my notes or anything, but I just want to say that you're dealing with a lot of different people that love to teach that there's no law. You know, even the Israelites, like I said, from the churches are waking up, but they're saying there's no law. And they use the Pauline doctrine, but I don't think they really understand what precepts are. I don't think they really understand what a precept is, because they'll go to Colossians, they'll go to Romans, they'll go to Galatians, and all Ephesians, and all these places where Paul is, and they'll try to do that when Peter tells you, and I think 2 Peter and 3:16, I think it says that, you know, Paul's writings are hard to understand. Get that from me real quick. 2 Peter 3:16. And while you're looking for that, I just want to continue to say that, they look at that and they say, you know, they try to use that as a precept when you cannot use that as a precept, because the word tells you that by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. Mm-hmm. So if Paul is being used in Ephesians and he's being used in Galatians, and where are the other disciples? Or it's the same witness. It said by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, that every word may be established. Even the people who went with him on the road to Damascus saw 2 different things, because every word had to be established. Go look at it side by side, what the 2 people said, and you'll see that it was 2 different accounts. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, some people like to look at that and they like to say, see, the Bible ain't real, because 2 people. That's because you're not going to see the same thing. Just like you sit in a circle and you tell somebody something, by the time you get to the 10th person, it's something different. Right. So we know these things already, but we have to use common sense when we're dealing with the word, and we have to use it in such a way where we can really understand how to precept things, and, you know, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, that every word may be established. That means that, see, he comes in the volume of the book, the Most High does. So does the Mashiach. So you can find them everywhere. You should be able to find them everywhere. In everybody's mouth, he should be there. Right. Because it's the same Holy Spirit speaking through other men, other holy men, as the Spirit gave them utterance and gave them the ability to write these things. So we know that. You find that 2 Peter? 2 Peter 2:15? 3 and 16. 3 and 16. Yeah, I think it's 3 and 16.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
This second epistle, beloved, are now writing to you, in both of which
You start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh, no, 2 Peter 3 and 16. You are 3. I mean 16. Okay. Yeah.
As also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, therein are some things hard to understand, which those who are unlearned and unable rest, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction.
Right. So Paul is telling you that, that he's hard to understand. Now imagine being hard to understand and not Paul, excuse me, Peter. Peter's saying that Paul's letters are hard to understand. So he's telling you that, read it again about the unstable part. It's so important.
Which those who are unlearned and unstable rest.
Like wrestle. Go ahead. They have a hard time.
As they do also the other scriptures.
As they do also the other scriptures. So they begin. So what Peter's saying is that they're reaching. That's what he's saying. Right. They're taking what Paul's saying and they're reaching to get precepts. That's what he's saying. Go ahead, continue.
Unto their own destruction.
Into their own destruction. So they're trying to make things fit the fact that they don't want to do the laws. And they can't do that. You can't use Ephesians, Colossians, and all these different things, because it says by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses that every word may be established. And that's clear. That's clear. And that's what they're doing. They're doing these things. So this is why they don't have proper precepts. Go ahead.
Ye therefore, beloved, seeing that ye know these things beforehand, beware, lest ye also, being led away with the error of the wicked, fall from your own steadfastness.
Wow. So there it is, So that's what I was saying. It's so important, to understand that, that we have to come back to the Mashiach and we have to make sure that we, when we kind of understand scriptures and doctrines and so forth, to make sure that we have proper precepts lined up, and that, he was hard to understand. So you can imagine today with all the translations, how it's even more hard to understand Paul's letters and so forth, And if you think about it, you can't find a single disciple or anything that will precept with none of the things that he say that they twist up about the law. But you can find disciples that go along with the fact that we keep in the law. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's kind of important, because you can actually find those things, and you'll see why Paul went on Sunday to meet with him to get the money, because he couldn't go on Saturday. So those things begin to make sense, like, wow, this is why, and because otherwise you sit there and you say, man, that's kind of crazy, why did Paul do this? Even though it's saying over here, because it's not saying what you think it's saying. It's not saying that. That's why he said the unlearned, and he talks about the unstable. Wow, that's deep. So when people say there's no law, and then to all these other scriptures saying it is law, you can't say that both of that's correct, because that's a contradiction. So you can't say both of those are correct. But in the case of Esau, being some Arabs and some so-called Europeans, you can believe that, because his seed went everywhere. Right. That's possible. You know what I'm saying? It's a difference, big difference. But I hope everybody, our listeners and everything, enjoyed the lesson today. Some of those things need to be said, because we just follow the Ruach, and sometimes it leads in a different direction, even though we're trying to stay on course. But that first commandment, is to have nobody else perform. And I just want to say one more thing about that perform thing. So, because some OT onlys, I can hear them right now saying, "Oh, see, that means the Mashiach." Well, the Mashiach goes because of him, not before him. We know that he goes because of him. We know that when he was baptized and brought back up out of the water, he said, "This is my son who I'm well pleased." Mm-hmm. So it pleases the Mashiach to have him out there and the Ruach. Right. And if you notice, they never go against the Ruach. They only go against the Mashiach. That's deep. Well, listen to what I'm saying here. They never go against the Ruach. They always go against the Mashiach and say, well, no, it's King David, he coming, and all these different things, and we can prove all that too. But I'm just saying, they say these things, but they never argue the Ruach. They never say nothing about him.
Well, what I've seen, this is just from people that I've talked to, they don't go against the Ruach because they don't acknowledge the Ruach. Because without the Mashiach who sent the Ruach, then
No, I've seen a lot of them who say there's a Ruach, but there's no Mashiach. It's so many different doctrines out here. And, that's another thing. It's hard to get people to really understand what's going on because people are not on one accord. So, it's really hard to get, and it's sad, in some ways. But the Mashiach got it like that, too. It's a reason for that, and I think I understand what that reason is. But, some people say, oh, no, he wouldn't be a part of no confusion. No, that's y'all bringing the confusion. He ain't bringing no confusion. It's just people not understanding the scriptures, and then they're promoting scriptures and doctrines and different things that's not really there. Like Paul said, like Peter said about Paul. Right. So with that being said, all praise to the Most High. Anybody else have anything to say? Great. So thank you for joining us today. We hope that you have a blessed, Shabbat. And we will be posting this up soon. And we love our brothers and sisters out there. So if y'all have anything to say or anything you want to add to it or whatever, we would love to hear from you all. We love you. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Kwame Shalom.
Kwame Shalom.